This thing's heavy. Hello, Internet. I wanted to make a completely different video to announce the start of my new YouTube journey, post-college and in the middle of a pandemic, and how my New Year's resolution was to stop holding myself back from my creative journey. And then... So instead, I'm going to partake on this journey of talking about some of the things that sparked joy, as Marie Kondo would say, in a section that I would like to call Just Girly Things, Coup Edition. If you'll come with me, I would like to talk about some of the things that I loved in TV and movies and music, etc. Over the course of the pandemic that brought some kind of levity to all of the BS that has happened in this past year. Let's start. So first of all, I want to talk about podcasts. If you're bored by podcasts, that's fine. You can skip to this part in the video. I want to talk about Thirst Aid Kit. Thirst Aid Kit is one of the funniest podcasts I've ever seen. It's two women of color who basically just come on every week and talk about celebrities that they're thirsting over. It's usually men. I think a couple of times they've talked about women as well. But they're so funny. It's so light, but it's also, sometimes they interview them and talk about how hot they are on camera. It's so much fun. Unfortunately, the show has ended. I think it ended at the beginning of this year, but you can always go back into their backlog and see just how hilarious they are. Another podcast that I love is called Unlocking Us. It's by Brene Brown, who is a researcher and psychologist. She's kind of famous for talking about shame, and she was one of the inspirations behind, if you've seen the show Big Mouth, the shame wizard arc that they had in season 2, I believe it was. She's really, really brilliant, and I think that her podcast, she has people come on, and sometimes it's just her, and she just talks about how to heal through vulnerability, through not giving into shame, and I really, really love her for it. By the way, all these things will be linked in the description down below if you would like to see them as well, or I guess hear them in this case. Another podcast that I've been loving is called And You're Watching, and it is literally just two girls talking about all the different shows. If you grew up in the early 2000s like I did, they go from Lizzie McGuire to High School Musical to Hannah Montana, and they just talk about all the news and topics from that era that I loved and that I was obsessed with when I was a kid. It's not quite like a 90s podcast. It's not quite a 2000s podcast. It's kind of in the middle. It's right in my wheelhouse. I was born in 97, so I'm not quite a millennial, not quite a Gen Z. It's right in that sweet spot, which I love. Pivoting to TV, I know I am probably the last person in the world to have not watched The Office, and so I made it my mission, in the midst of the fact that I had all the time in the world, to watch The Office all the way through for the first time. And I know it's we've been new that it's a great show, but this is one of the few shows, sometimes people will talk about movies or TV shows and they'll say, oh my god, it's the pinnacle of writing and it's so great and it's my favorite show and it's the greatest thing ever, and then I'll watch it and I'll be like, I mean, it was fine. This is not one of those cases. Regardless, it did take me, I want to say maybe 2.5 seasons to really get into it and really adjust to the comedy. But I mean, it's an iconic show for a reason. The humor is there, the heart is there. I don't need to tell you this, you know this already. Moving on. Another show that I loved, if you're an animation lover such as myself, was Owl House on Disney Channel. It's a really, really great show by Dana Terrace, who has been a director and an animator on a lot of other Disney projects, and she had the opportunity to create her own show. I believe she's the first woman to have her own show on Disney Channel, not including Disney Junior and all the like preschool shows. It's really fun. It's really inventive. If you're a Harry Potter fan, I think you would love it. Another Disney show that I really, really loved is the 2017 DuckTales reboot. It's genuinely so good, and I'm so sad that it's ending in its third season. It's so good. It's so fun. The adventure is there. The characterization is there. The writing is there. I just love it, and I'm sad that it's ending, but it's all on Disney Plus if you have that available to you. Another show that I loved, pivoting from animation, if you're not into that sort of thing, was Selling Sunset. Selling Sunset is a reality show on Netflix that is about a bunch of awesome women who are real estate agents in Los Angeles, and I think it's weirdly very inspiring to see a bunch of women talk about commission and getting money and negotiating and taking control of their own businesses and making money in such a cutthroat industry. And then on the other hand, you know, about to throw hands at a public event. I don't know why, but I think that's something that's not new. We've seen The Real Housewives, we've seen all kinds of different things, but I think it's very uplifting. Is that the word I want to use? To see a bunch of women really take control of their lives and understand that, you know, you can balance home life and work life, and you can, you know, have fights and you can come back together and bond over Botox. Anyway, another thing on Netflix that I loved was Queer Eye. Obviously, the 5th season premiered early in the summer. I've always loved Queer Eye. I think it's just so wonderful and so, I don't know, it's nice to have a little bit of levity when it comes to reality TV. I'm not a huge reality TV fan, but it is one of the few shows that I do like and I think is generally pretty positive. Obviously there are some criticisms that I think are valid of it, but I think overall it's a good-natured show, and I think we need more of that nowadays. Another show I wanted to talk about, sorry I'm not done with animation, is Craig of the Creek. There are a lot of actually really great shows in terms of the animation industry, but I think Craig of the Creek is really special. It's the first animated show that has a Black lead on Cartoon Network, and it's so sweet and so fun. It has that adventure element, but it really is just about being a kid. I would say it's like Ed, Edd and Eddy meets Codename Kids Next Door in a way. It's about this little black boy and his friends and how they create new things and explore their imaginations in the creeks behind their house. I think it's a great thing to encourage kids to go outside. Sorry to sound like a boomer, but I do really love the show, and I think we need more shows like that, so please watch it. My last little thing, not in the animation side of things, is Little Fires Everywhere, which aired on Hulu earlier this year. Is it infuriating? Yes. But is it realistic? Absolutely. As someone who grew up in a very white town, I think just the ways in which Reese Witherspoon's character talks to people, the ways in which, you know, black people have a certain pride about them that doesn't allow themselves to be talked about and to like that, is very reminiscent of my own mother and situations that I've endured as a black person in white spaces, and I'm sure many other people do. I think it's so well done, and I loved it. On to movies. My first video I wanted to be a review of Soul, which is on Disney Plus, that premiered on Christmas Day. But I actually think I'm going to save that for my next video or somewhere else down the line, because I actually have a lot that I want to say about it. I really loved it, but I also have some critiques. I've seen how much praise it's getting, and I'm so happy for that, because I've been yearning for more people of color in animation and stories about them and stories by them. So I'm really happy that people are receiving it so well, but I really do want to talk about some certain things just narratively that I wasn't too enthused by, but I did really enjoy it, and I would recommend that you guys go see it. Moving on to some more movies that I love this year. Black is King, obviously. Beyonce I'm also super late on Hamilton. Not late in that I didn't see it. I saw it in 2016 or whenever it debuted on Broadway. I'm super late in that I haven't really talked about it yet. Obviously, I don't think there's anything else I could say about it that anyone hasn't mentioned already. It's great. The songs are great. The acting is great. The rapping is great. The story is great. The plot is great. Obviously, it's historical fiction in a way, but I do like the fact that they sort of turned history on its head in a way, and I also do get the criticisms of it. But either way, I still think that you should go see it on Disney Plus because it's still there. Another movie I wanted to talk about was Parasite, because yes, Parasite premiered last year in 2020. It feels like that was so long ago that it premiered and it had this huge widespread adoration for it, and then it won Best Picture at the Oscars, and I actually have a video of this Oscars party that I threw with a bunch of my friends. That feels like that was 5 years ago. It's so weird to think that that was just the beginning of the year last year, but it deserves all the praise that it got. I think it's so well done. I think it's odd to me that people were, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say it's odd to me because this happens every time, but similar to when Black Panther premiered, there was widespread appeal and everybody loved it, and then of course there are the dissenters that are gonna say, oh, it's not as good as it actually everybody keeps saying, and actually I don't understand why everybody's so obsessed with it, it's just okay. When it's like, okay, well, a movie can be just okay and a movie can be great, and in someone's eyes it's incredible and in another person's eyes it's not as big of a deal. I don't understand why every single time we have a movie where it's a person of color at the helm of it, whether they're Black, Asian, Latinx, etc. And then of course you're going to have white folks every once in a while just say, oh, it's actually not that good, I didn't get it. Well, that's okay. You don't have to get it. I think Parasite is so well done, and again, this is another one of those things where I don't think I could say anything else that other people haven't said, but I absolutely would recommend. If you're one of the few people who, just thought, oh, well, it's in Korean, I don't know if I really want to read subtitles, I think it's totally worth it. And the last movie I kind of wanted to talk about was Palm Springs. Palm Springs is a movie that premiered at Sundance, I believe, and it stars Andy Samberg. It gets to really weird places that almost lost me in terms of elements that I don't want to spoil, but it is really it's really heartfelt and really funny in ways that I didn't expect. Obviously, I expect the funny from Lonely Island and Andy Samberg, of course, but the heart of it and sort of the theme behind it, I thought was really interesting and not where I was expecting it to go. And I love when movies that you think are gonna go one way, it's sort of a Groundhog Day-esque plot, when a movie you think is going to go one way and they completely surprise you with something else. And I really am excited for indie movies right now because it gives me hope that we're going to get even more interesting, expansive stories from a diverse array of people. And honestly, that's what we need right now. And that's it. I wanted to talk a little more about music and just things on YouTube, specifically digitally, that brought me a lot of joy this year. But I think I'm actually going to save that for another video because, again, I have a lot to say about it. And this video is already way too long and I'm going to have a long time editing it. So I really appreciate it if you've seen this video and you liked it. If you did, I would love if you would put a like down below. It really does help new creators, particularly creators that are just starting out, to get more traction. And if you could share and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. All right, thanks so much.